Welcome to the new season of the Live Your Spa Life show. The SPA in Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that divine power within you to do what you're here to do. The theme for this season is Freedom Fighter. Amazing people like you share ways to ensure your freedom physically, financially, spiritually, and in your relationships to create a world-class life. In these times of uncertainty, it's time for you to move past the distractions and start trusting yourself more through your God-given knowingness. No one truly knows better what's best for you than you. In this season, you'll have plenty of examples of people choosing their best life and giving a voice of freedom to those who are also looking to have their best life. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us and being part of the Live Your Spa Life conversation. With us today is Laura Dibenedetto, and she is just, first of all, she's amazing. I just want to start off with that. But she is a TEDx speaker, a #1 best-selling author of The 6 Habits and Life Mastery Coach. And what's so cool about Laura is she not only teaches people how to live the life of their dreams, but she does it with people not sacrificing what they love. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love talking to you. This is just a wonderful opportunity to do more.
So good. Well, I want to just start off with, what is one thing that people are surprised to learn about you?
Oh my God. People are surprised about a lot of things about me. Probably that I am as domestic as I am. I am a very, very rebellious person, and you wouldn't think that, I enjoy doing those things, but God, I do love a clean house and yard work. I actually really like that stuff. I can sew really well. I can bake really well.
That is, it's funny you say that, because that is actually becoming more important now that you actually have some solid life skills, right? Because we got so used to Googling everything, and what happens if that all crashes down? And it's like, what do we actually know how to do? And so that's been kind of some fun conversations, and especially now just having these conversations around freedom and what that actually means. And, for me, freedom is choice. And I'd love to know for you, what does freedom mean to you, and in what ways do you fight for it?
So first of all, I love the way you define that, as freedom is choice. I mean, I guess not to steal your answer, but it really is. It's like choice to do or not do, and do things the way we'd like to do them, or, whatever. For me, the subject of freedom is, first of all, it's very, very nuanced. It touches every area of our lives. It's how we live our lives. It's who we are as people. It's how we dress, how we express ourselves, and not feeling like we're necessarily held back by gender stereotypes, or what our mom wanted us to be when we grew up, or being a well-behaved woman. Anyone who knows me will tell you I am not one of those. So that's not a shock. But I love the idea of freedom. I mean, my parents are not surprised about this at all. They raised little rebellious me when I was little, and my God, yeah, they don't really. Their hair's falling out. It's my fault. Raising a freedom-oriented person is a lot, but how I fight for freedom is, first of all, I'm actually starting my own podcast. So I love that you're doing this, and I can't wait to help you with it. And I just, like you, I want to help people to be more free and really stand in our power. And, the word sovereignty is, I think it's been getting a bad name lately. And I'm like, no, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to take it back and put it on the shiny platform it belongs on, and help people to truly be free. I also practice a lot of civil disobedience, so I encourage others to do the same. I help people face their fears. I mean, it's a lot of it, but mostly it's helping people to stand tall in their own cognitive abilities and do somewhat bad things. Well, I say that with like a...
Well, one of the things I love about you is you are not afraid of speaking your mind. You're not afraid of changing courses and just shifting things that you're up to. And, you at a very young age, 19, were the founder and CEO of your company, of Vision Advertising, and you loved that. Like, you were super passionate in that, and you were all in with that. And, when you retired from that, you were at almost like 37, right? At that time.
Yeah.
And, being driven and when we get so used to what we're doing and it's what we know, right? And when we start looking at possibly doing something different, how is it that you rediscovered a different path when you know what I mean? Like you're on the success train and things are happening and you have a certain amount of freedom, right? When you have success.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But then when you're shifting and re-identifying yourself, then something happens. So I guess what I really want to chat about with this is, first of all, why stop a good thing, right? What had you shift that to do, even look at something different? And then what helped you rediscover that new path?
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for all the nice things you said. So stopping a good thing is acknowledging that good things come with bad sides to them. Hustle and grind and all that stuff. I mean, it'll kill you if you let it. And it was definitely killing me slowly. And some things are just not worth it. I mean, I'm famous for saying sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze. That's one of them. Like, money and time are wonderful things, but if you have to sell your soul and your health to get it, they stop being worth it. So I went from the secure but torturous. I mean, no offense to anyone involved in that world. I am the one that inflicted the torture upon myself, right? Because I was chasing all the wrong stuff. It's leaving the security and safety of that for like the great unknown, which is, terrifying. So doing something else. I mean, I learned a powerful lesson over the last, however long, ever since then. Let's see, math. What's it been like? 3 years, something like that. I've had to learn surrender. Funny thing about surrender, Diane, is that's not a lesson you ever willingly go into. You have to surrender to it and have life punch you in the face and make you surrender. It's like, surrender. So I had to just be sad and mourn what I thought was so secure, but really wasn't, the cost of it. And then I had to let like new stuff happen, but also like, I got super brave for me. I moved to Hawaii. It was awesome. I lived there for a while till it stopped being awesome. And like, I had to, face the not so great side of that. And, I had to pick up and move. I live in Florida now. And, every time I go through one of these changes and evolutions, I have to face the good, the bad, the ugly, and really just make different decisions. And it's not always easy.
Well, I think what's important, particularly for our listeners, is that, sometimes we feel like when we get on a path that's what we're known for. That's what we've been successful at. This is like, this is me type thing. And changing that and shifting that can be really scary. And for some people like you voluntarily did it. Of course, there was some, kicking and screaming as part of it. That's part of the shift and change that happens. But,
there was a lot.
What we really saw in the last couple of years was people were, in essence, kind of forced to have a change. And a lot of times when you're forced to have a change, I like to think that there are some bigger reasons behind it, and that we have to look at our life and we have to look at how we're living it. And we need to be able to, it's either what, we either look at it or we have a lot more tougher decisions or a lot tougher experiences that happen along the way. And I think it's really interesting. And I don't know if this is just kind of, foreshadowing with your book with 6 Habits, where you had a certain intentionality and things that were with it. But the first habit in there with kindness, and we've seen a lot of lack of kindness in the last couple years, and there's been a shift in people that we connect with, and there's so much dividing that's happening. What kind of deeper?
You're saying that more politely than I would have.
Well, what? How would you talk about just kindness now, like in the context of what you were bringing it through as far as a habit? And one of the things that you also talk about a lot is that, it seems very simple, a lot of the habits that you have out there, but bringing them into your life and actually incorporate them, especially when there's tough times that are happening, that's the challenge, right? In terms of what that looks like.
Oh, yeah.
So
true. It's easy on a good day.
How does kindness play into your life today?
Sure. Well, I think in the bigger picture, let's talk about fear for a second. The big reason why society is really in the crapper at the moment is because people are afraid. And unfortunately, not everybody's afraid of the same things. And when people are afraid, they get the, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. So you've got 4 things layered on top of whatever you could be afraid of. And you basically get a very chaotic culture that we live in right now, where there is a lot of kindness towards self, which is what the book talks about, but also lack of kindness towards others. So in the book, I talk about how we need to be kind to ourselves because it's empowering. It'll help us do a lot of things. And, it's more effective to be like, hey, you can do this to yourself versus you're a piece of crap. Why bother trying? Obviously, you prefer the more nurturing voice. But when people are living in fear and they perceive that someone else's actions or inactions are a direct threat to them, kindness is not on the table because they're afraid of that person. Kindness, I hate saying it, becomes not relevant because you are a threat to me, and fear becomes paramount, becomes the only part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I want to encourage people to do is to, whoever reads my book, read it through the lens of the turmoil we're all experiencing. Am I treating myself with kindness when I am afraid? And then taking it a step further, and believe me, I'm going to be releasing a new edition to this book probably next year. Am I being kind to others despite my fear? Like, am I showing up as my best self? Right. And I think some of us, if we were to really get super honest, would have to answer, no, we're not. We're behaving very poorly. We're treating each other in ways that we would not ordinarily approve of, but the fear makes it okay, sort of, but it doesn't. Right. It's a convenient excuse and a place to direct all of our fear, rage, frustration at. And hey, like you, I've lost friends because of my positions on things over the last couple of years. And it's not because they don't love me. I know that. Doesn't make it suck any less. Right. But it's because I hold an opinion that is contrary to theirs, and they are afraid of something different than I am afraid of, and therefore I am a threat. Right. So right. How can a friendship exist in that kind of a hostile environment? Right. It can't.
Well, I so appreciate you bringing up, and this is part of this whole new season, is to have these kind of conversations that it's almost like the new politically incorrect conversation to have is to talk about exactly what's important to you and how you want to live your life. And, yes, it's great to have conversations where you're exploring your feelings, but that someone's feelings and fears doesn't supersede other people's rights, right? And how they want to be. And there has to be those conversations where, how is it that we can be in the same room and be able to have conversations and hear what the other person has to say and be able to, research things broader than what, we're seeing in like the mainstream media, right? Because we know that is very agenda focused. It's, they call it programming for a reason. And it's up to us as part of our freedom to be able to explore what is actually true for us and what actually affects our life and what those things actually look like, right? So I think it's, it's interesting, to look at, how is our life different now, and what are the things that are still important, and what are we willing to do about it?
Yeah. Having those conversations is, it's hard. I mean, believe me, I enjoy a good echo chamber. God, I love feeling right. Don't you? But it's like really valuable when we can exist outside our echo chambers and talk with someone about their points of view without necessarily feeling threatened. And that, frankly, just like everything else in life, it takes practice. Right. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to have a conversation with someone who patently disagrees with me and they're not a threat, and just go into it and you'll be fine. Right. No, you got to know it's going to be really hard for you. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get. But like, this is also how we learn. So I was listening to Tucker Carlson's audiobook. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really good. And he said something in that words. He said something in there that I really, really appreciated. And it was like, it's actually really good that our country has the extreme left and the extreme right. And the fact that our country changes power from different presidents, because what we do is like, the left will pull the country to the left, the right will pull the country to the right. And ultimately what it does is it keeps us somewhat steady on a good midline path, and it keeps our country running. And I was like, you know what? There's value in that. And taking it further, it really just highlights a lot of how there's value in ideas that are different from our own. And I think if we can get to a point where we love ourselves, speaking of the whole kindness thing, and we can feel very confident in who we are and our positions, and know that someone disagreeing with us doesn't necessarily make us wrong. It just makes what they feel different. We feel more confident about hearing other people's points of view because we don't feel like we're under siege. And then perhaps in our own head, we can go to the hard left or go to the hard right, and we can ourselves arrive at like a nice, happy, safe middle place where we're not really living in the extremes. I'm sure you would agree with this. The extremes don't tend to work.
Right. Absolutely.
They don't. I mean, functionally speaking, I mean, think about, rules and laws and mandates and, like all the political things. All of the extremes are doomed to fail. And they do. I mean, look at history.
Right.
But the things that are somewhat midline, they tend to endure. Even if not forever, they last a hell of a lot longer.
Right. Well, and then there's a whole thing about, one of the things I used to remember as far as being in the police department, that there was the letter of law and then there was the spirit of the law. And I think it's important to be able to have conversations where, you can put forth, okay, this is how we've done things, and different things are being presented to us in many different ways and different ways to look at it. But if we actually just back up a little bit and go, okay, what is not just the spirit of the law, but the spirit of, things like living with, happiness, right? The pursuit of happiness and having liberty. And, some of these really, integral type of words of what does that actually mean day to day and what it is in your life. And so when you start looking at what is the kind of life I want to have and what is the kind of life I want to have for my family, and acting from that place, like I don't know anyone who really wants to live from a place of fear every day, right? Or being told that,
you're so right,
the next, crazy catastrophe thing's going to happen. I mean, there's always been viruses. There's always been, things happening in government, right? And it's up to us, right, to shine a light on these different things and realize, okay, how does this impact the kind of life that I want to live? And which, leads me into thinking, one of your 6 habits talks about goodness. And I'd like to know kind of the difference between, having, kindness and goodness, and how does goodness play out?
Sure. All right. So goodness is really managing what energy we take in and what kind of energy we're willing to participate in. So kindness is how we treat ourselves. Goodness is what we subject ourselves to. It's how we let others treat us. It's also what kind of energy we onboard. I'll give you a great example. Yesterday was the most amazing day. I spent the whole day, no podcast, no music, no nothing. I was gardening outside all day, trimming trees and pruning bushes and making my yard pretty, listening to the birds sing. I was very present, which is another one of the habits, but I was also filling myself up with something really good. And the lack of podcasts, the lack of news, the lack of social media is also goodness, because I wasn't polluting my head or my experience with something really toxic or negative. So the subject of goodness, it can be a little hard for people who aren't really used to being fully in control of what's coming in. We just, I watch the TV and whatever's on the TV is what's going into my head. You sure that's a good idea? It's not.
Right.
A lot of times when we remember that on the news and on social media, we are the product that's being bought and sold. When we remember that, we're more willing to opt out and be like, ugh, I'm going to go get my day back. See you later. And what happens is we don't expose ourselves to the light, the right screaming at the left, or the latest fear porn, or the latest news, or whatever, or like your friend that can't stop taking like a million stunning selfies of her in like Saint-Tropez or something, and making you feel bad by comparison. You're just like, no, like I know these things are hurtful to me and I don't want to do them. Or talking with someone who is treating you in a way that you don't like. You get to have boundaries. Boundaries are a big part of goodness. You got to have boundaries with yourself. You got to have boundaries with other people. It doesn't mean you need to be a jerk about it.
Right.
But boundaries are very healthy. And like yesterday, I had a good hard boundary with myself of, you know what? I do read the news and I look at social media much more than I used to, just because the world is on fire and I like to know what's happening. But I have to have hard limits with myself. And I was like, you know what? No, I need this quality time outside with myself today. And I'm not going to besmirch this with anything from the outside world. So that was a boundary I had to honor with me. And this whole subject of goodness, it's like, it's a very rich subject. I mean, I probably could write a whole book just about that, but it's really energy and what we allow ourselves to take in, and what we're going to do for output that allows us to take in more energy. It's like, even like yoga, meditation, going for a bike ride, you're putting energy out with the intention of getting something good back from it.
Right.
So goodness is receiving of energy no matter how you go.
I love this. I think this is one of the most foundational things that we can offer to other people, is to just take a step back and go, where am I getting information from? Where are things being inputted? And when I listen to them, do I feel like I want to kill people, or do I feel centered and peaceful? And I feel like it's adding to my life. And this is this whole, what is adding to our life versus what is subtracting from our life. And I think that it's super important. And
Exactly.
And again, it's all, habitual, right? The things of the habits that we have, we kind of have this habit of turning something on, and just being able to unplug from everything, even if we did it for, 15 minutes a day, right? Start with that. And it builds up to, an hour a day or whatever. I mean, there was a reason why, there was supposed to be a day of rest in the week, right? To unplug from all these things so that you can restore, that you can fortify yourself into whatever's happening in the world, and that you can hear your own voice. If you can't hear your own voice above all the droningness that's happening out there, and you don't create those habits that allow you to come fully charged, versus, having all these things, jumping at you where it's just draining your energy, and you're like, oh my God, it's too much. And so I'd love for you to share, as part of just the habits that you've created. You and I definitely are on the same page about the type of habits, particularly first thing in the morning and last thing at night. What are some of the things that you do?
Okay, so I have to first acknowledge I am a person who craves variety. Routine is not something I embrace. So one of the things that I incorporate into every day is permission to have that day be completely different than the previous day. And that's one thing I routinely stick to. Like, I bought myself a really nice bicycle, and I give myself permission to go out, not go out, go for a short ride, long ride, whatever. But in terms of parentheses habits at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, I like to end my day with gratitude. And I'm going to start with that first because it sets the tone for the next day. So I say my prayers every night as I'm going to bed. And I challenge myself to not bore God to death with the same list of things that I was grateful for the previous day. It's like, well, let's see how inventive and how hardcore creative I can get, and how much I can truly appreciate about all these specific things. Like, dear God, thank you for my husband. Well, no kidding, but like, why? Why am I grateful for him? Thank you, God, for giving me a husband who makes me laugh every day, even sometimes when he doesn't plan to. So gratitude really sets the tone. In the morning, I always like to have quiet time with myself. I'll make my coffee. Sometimes I'll just relax and sit in the sun. I have, instead of like an everyday routine, I tend to have like a handful of things that I can pick from that works for a personality like mine. So it's like, sometimes I will sit outside and enjoy the sunshine. Sometimes I will just take a nice hot shower. It just depends. But feeling great every morning is the goal. I want to feel great before I jump into doing podcasting or writing some more or whatever. And the only way to do that is to really get my head right. And it actually begins the night before by programming everything in my head with gratitude. I sleep better, I wake up happier, and it's really easy for me to kind of continue from there. How about you?
Yeah. I love what you talk about in sort of like the whole parentheses and having kind of an area, but it can shift and change. Like you, I like to have, some variety of things. I don't want to feel, one of the habits you have is being present. And I think sometimes when we do things just rote and just do them, it's just kind of like when you drive and you don't know how you drove somewhere, right? You just kind of miss.
Right? You're like, how did I get here?
Oh my God,
I could have
what happened with that. And so I kind of have some agreements with God about how, I'm going to talk to him throughout the day. And a lot of times I'll be like, oh, so that happened, or what do you think about that? Or, okay, what are you trying to tell me about this? I know you're hitting me over the head with something, but really, did you really mean that to happen? Or like, I'm very, I don't want to say, some people may say disrespectful, but I have a very casual conversation with God because, in fact, my friends know I have a picture of Jesus. I call it Hot Jesus because there's something fun about the energy around that conversation with him. And because in having a personal relationship, you got to be personal, right? You've got to be yourself. And,
absolutely.
God knows who you are. Like, when we kind of become this separate person, when we pray and we connect, I think God wonders, like, who is that person, right? And
I know, right?
So
I love that you say this. This is so valuable.
I think it's important. And I think for me, I mean, I have very foundational things. And I think that the first thing I have in the morning is I just say, thank you, God. Right. And that is, and sometimes I ramble with it. Sometimes that's all I say. Sometimes I read, a passage out of the Bible. Sometimes I read something inspiring. But I think, for me, it is about starting the day with something positive. Right. And so I think whatever that is, that can, vary with what's happening. And then for me, it's a similar at the end of the day as well. So for me, I like to have a hot shower at the end of the day. Like, there's something to me about washing the day away and just being in the quiet space. And I used to sometimes listen to stuff in the shower, and I thought, do I really need to listen to stuff while I'm in the shower? I feel like I hear like this wah, Charlie Brown's Teacher when I hear it anyway. It's never really clear, and
it's just noise.
I miss stuff, right? And it becomes that noise. So for me, we have like this beautiful lighting in our yard that I can see out of my shower. And so just kind of being in that presence of that. And especially this time of year, I've got this angel that glows, and I look at that, and it's just, to me, it's like putting yourself in just yumminess and quietness. And I think
you got your own magic.
Yeah, it's like creating your own magic. I love it. And so,
well, that's the thing. And you know what? If you were busy listening to the wah, you would actually miss out on the magic. But you're like, no, I'm going to opt in. I like magic. Magic is right. Good for you.
Yeah, so good. And I think it's just important to have some of these things. And I think that when there's so much noise out in the world, we forget that in order to center ourselves, we need to have some of that quiet, right? We need to have some of that stability in our life, and that the stability comes from us, right? It's something that's within us, and it's things that we create. And one of my favorite questions to ask our guests, because it is about creating, is what is your favorite room in your home, right? Because we get energy from the different areas of our house, and it means something different to us. So what is that for you currently?
Honestly, I think it varies day to day, and given the mood I'm in, when I want to feel cozy and soft and warm, I love my bedroom because I've got like all these beautiful ambient lights and Himalayan salt lamps and everything. And I just bring the lights down very low, maybe light a candle, and it's just, it's like my own little spa. Sometimes, it'll be my office because I'm in a super creative, jazzed up space. Sometimes it's none of the rooms in my house, and it's just, being outside in my backyard, which is like a baby resort. So, it does move around day to day, but, that's really about being very in touch with where I am that day mentally and like what I need. And I will tell you, I have to like hit rewind here by a few minutes. I think one of the worst things we do is we don't know how to put those damn devices down. When we have a moment of silence with ourselves, we're like, running for the smartphone. Oh my God, I can hear my thoughts. Gross. Alternatively, what if you listened? So, one of like you, I've got all day long habits. And one of my all day long habits is I put my phone down often, or if I catch myself looking at my phone, I'm like, ew, ugh. I like put it down because I know how much I'm not listening to myself. And we've gotten so used to that as a culture, you, me, everybody else. It's like, oh, I have a minute to myself, better pick up the phone so I can be entertained. Some of the best ideas in the world have come about from being not entertained and actually letting our brains produce stuff.
Yeah.
So, whenever I'm outside, I try to make that my phone free zone, my kitchen. I love to cook. I mean, I don't know. I'm a very enthusiastic enjoyer of life. So I like all the rooms in my house.
I love it.
Even my bathroom's fun because I get to, give myself the mani-pedi and, facials and get fancy.
Nice.
Like
I love it. I love
sometimes.
This is so good. Well, girl, we could talk all afternoon about this, and I know that people are going to want to connect with you. How can they do that?
If you go to the6habits.com, THESIX habits.com. You can get there. You can check out my marketing company, my ammo company. You can find out about the book. Please buy it and read it and change your life and really get to know yourself. Put your damn phone down. But the6habits.com is where to start.
So good. So what's your final thoughts on maybe just one, piece of advice about people claiming more freedom in their life?
Freedom requires bravery. You have to be willing to disappoint others and know that you have permission to do it. Freedom means following your own intuition. And it doesn't mean disrespecting other people. Boundaries is not about disrespecting other people. It's about respecting yourself. There's a way to respect others and uplift others and to choose yourself. And if disappointing others is part of it, that's okay. It's probably some of the most important advice I routinely give out with my coaching clients. You get to disappoint people. You get to let people down. You get to piss people off. You get to do that. Should you? Maybe try not to, but sometimes it's unavoidable, but you get to do it. You must choose yourself, listen to yourself, and the rest should follow.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom. And I think this is so valuable for, all of our listeners, especially being part of this new conversation. To whatever platform you're on, put in the comments, like, what does freedom mean to you? Let's open up this conversation, blow it up. And, let's not divert from trying to limit conversation. Let's expand conversation. Let's just see, what does that mean for people? And so I would love for you to share this. Put your comments, tag both Laura and myself. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. And until we meet again, live your spa life, live your freedom. Bye for now.